Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is brought to us by Tlyard.com. They have many different accessories for your Model 3, Model Y, Model S, and Model X. If you use code TOPSHELF at checkout, you'll save yourself an additional 25% off your entire order. So if you're looking at these 4D rotating tweeters that we're about to review on the channel, you can save yourself $97.50 at checkout with code TOPSHELF. So let's go ahead and get into the installation now. We're going to begin the installation with the rear vent OBD access on your Model 3. So here we have the lowest panel, which we're going to remove using two pry tools. You just want to find the sweet spot where you're able to get the flat edge of the pry tool in between the two panels and allow you to get some leverage to remove the panel completely. The panel is held in by 5 or 6 metal spring-loaded pressure clips, and once you get one off, you'll be able to pull the rest off. Once the panel is removed, you have access now to the OBD2 connector. That is the blue plug that you see right here. Disregard the white cables that you see. Those are other accessories that are already installed in our vehicle. If you have nothing else installed, you'll only have the blue cable. At this time, do not disconnect anything. So the blue cable has a male and female end. But before we do that, we need to go to the front. In our main UI, go to Safety in your settings. Scroll down to Power Off. And then confirm Power Off. And this will shut the car down. Now we're able to disconnect anything here at the OBD2 port. With part 2, we're going to be connecting the OBD2 cable at the rear vent. For this video, we're going to be tapping into the OBD2 connector. If you have no other accessories installed, you'll be connecting to the blue port. For this video, I'm going to be using another white one. You're essentially just bridging the connection. Easiest way to do this is to press down on the little tab and use your pry tool to twist and get some leverage to separate the cable. You want to connect the male end to the female end of the new cable and male end to the female end. Now, as you can see, I have several accessories here, so cable management is crucial. You can use the open space there at the bottom of the console to stuff your cabling in. And as you can see, it's getting a little tight for us. I have to start not installing anything at this connection anymore. You can daisy chain as many of these connections as you can fit. There's no issue with doing so. So we've got our cable tightened up as best as possible, and you have the two leads that come out from the newly installed harness. One is going to go to the left door tweeter, and the other is going to go to the right door tweeter. In part 3, we'll be routing the driver's seat cabling. So with this long cable, we're going to need to do some cable management and get the cable properly run under the tracks of the driver's side chair. So we're going to use that Velcro gap under the seat to run our cables there. Now, if you've watched some of our other videos, the seat cover that we have installed, the ventilated seat cover, or our ambient lighting kit, we've used this area before. This allows you to run the cable safely under the chair without worrying about it getting frayed if you reposition the chair backwards or forwards. So we've got it under the one track. Now what I'm going to do is just pull all the slack so that nothing's caught. You want to make sure there's no knots in your cable. And once you get it to this point, you want to make sure that there are no kinks in the cable, and you can position it underneath that plastic tab. So now we're going to the other side of the chair. I'm coming in from the driver's side door with the wire fishing tape. It's just easier to do it this way. It prevents any pinching of the cable, and for filming purposes, it makes my life a lot easier. You can just loosely tape that on, and we're going under the other rail now. And I'm just going to pull the other side of the cable. As you can see, all the way down into the outside of the car. And I've now got the cable run successfully underneath both rails of the driver's side chair. So we're going to be installing it in the door pillar trim. We're going to be going through the rubber gasket and into the door. In part 4, we're going to do some basic trim panel removal. This is done in many installations. We're going to remove the triangular piece and the cap from the dash panel first. A flat pry tool works best here. Just simply wedge it down in the visible gap and twist. The third panel is going to be that pillar trim panel, and then we're going to be removing this plastic trim pin. Take your pry tool and in one of those grooves just pop out the head of the clip, and the rest of it should follow suit. Sometimes these clips do separate, that's fine. Once you've got that pin removed, we're going to pull up the door trim panel. Simply lift up and pull backwards, and that entire panel will come right off. And now we've exposed the pass-through for the door grommet, which is right in that area that I'm pointing to. So you're going to put your wiring through that opening, which goes into the rubber door grommet and down into the panel for your door. In part 5, we're going to be removing the tweeter and the door panel from the driver's side door. So to remove the tweeter, all you're going to do is simply take your flat pry tool. You're going to wedge it underneath the tweeter and twist upward. That will separate the tweeter from the door frame. And we have Alpine tweeters installed here, so the cables are a little bit longer than what you'll see, but the disconnection is the same. Just pull the two cables apart. And now to remove the door panel, we're going to take this reflector off with our flat pry tool. You can see the Torx 30 screw right there. We'll go ahead and remove that. The second one is going to be next to your pocket light above the storage compartment on your door. That screw is exposed. Another Torx 30. And the third screw is going to be at the very top of the door handle. You're going to remove the plastic cap. Just take your flat pry tool and just push it forward, and you'll see the third Torx 30 screw is right there. I've loosened this for installation purposes and videoing, and you can go ahead and remove that. Those are the 3 screws that need to be removed. Now you'll have to separate the door trim panel from the door itself. It's held in by 8 or 9 pressure clips. So take your flat pry tool in the lower left corner, and you're going to wedge it behind there between the door and the plastic and twist, and you'll hear a very loud pop. That means you successfully separated the first pin. And once you get the first one, you can go around by hand and remove the remaining pins. They will stay in the door. They do not come out of the door panel, rather. Going to go around and pull. I don't recommend pulling on the pocket of the door until you've gotten most of the clips removed. And don't be surprised if several of the clips come off on you at one shot. That's normal. Sometimes the panel will come right off the door relatively quickly. So just be prepared to catch it if that happens. I actually use a stool that I have that I wheel right underneath so I can lay the door panel down. You can see it just flew off on me. And we're just going to keep everything connected and just lay that door panel down. We do not have to disconnect anything from the door panel for this installation. These are the clips that I was referring to. So you can see they're all still connected to the door panel. None of them will stay in the door itself. So we're going to leave the door panel alone, just rest it down on a stool or a box or something. And we're going to be working exclusively with that rubber grommet and the door woofer speaker, removing that. In the next part, we're going to be wiring the door panel. So we're going to remove the door woofer from the door. There are 4 8mm screws that we need to remove first. Socket wrench comes in handy here. Once you've got the 4 screws removed, you're going to remove the door woofer from the door. Now, since we have aftermarket speakers, they are a little easy to remove. Disconnect the green connection. Make sure your window is up. At this point, if it's not, go ahead and raise it. You will need to have access to the area in that opening, so you can see the regulator there going up. We will need to access that wiring loom that is going through the door there that you see. So now we're going to remove the rubber grommet from the lower portion of the door jamb. So this one is just held in, it's rubber all the way through. It's just seated in the opening in the door. So we're just going to go ahead and peel it back. Just like so. You can leave it loose. Just make sure you have access to the wiring loom that is inside the tubing. The upper portion is a little different. It has a plastic retaining cap that you're going to use a plastic pry tool to remove. And now we're going to take our fishing tape and run it through from the cabin outside into that rubber loom. So we're only connecting that one cable. For this procedure, this is a really tight fit with this wiring loom. So we recommend using a wire lubricant. Ideal makes one, or there's several different brands that you can purchase. They are safe for wiring electrical connections. They will not harm anything, and it makes this a lot easier of a task. If you don't use the wire lubricant, you could have a difficult time getting this through. So you want to take your time and make sure that you have enough clearance going down into the opening. You also want to make sure that you're passing through the plastic ring as well as the rubber grommet. If you miss the plastic ring, then you will have to redo this. So make sure you go through there. You can use your other hand to guide the fishing tape through the rubber grommet. You can see the wire lubricant is on the fishing tape as well as the wire. That helps get the fishing tape through. You can see there are a ton of wires that need to be maneuvered around. So take your time here. Once you've got your fishing tape moving along, it does get a little easier towards the bottom. with this type of wire housing, the ribs on the channeling are difficult to pass that fishing tape through, and sometimes it gets stuck. So using your other hand to help it through definitely speeds this up. This is probably the hardest part of the installation. Once you get through this, you're in the home stretch. And you can see now my fishing tape has made it through. So now that you can see the wire there is covered with the lubricant, and the fishing tape is slightly larger than this wire, so once the connector has passed through the rubber tubing, the rest of the wire should pull pretty easily through. And now our connector has made it through, and as you can see, the rest of the wire flows through the channel pretty freely at this point. Now we don't want to pull all of the slack into the door because we do need to tidy up our wires along the pillar trim. So you can leave yourself enough wiring there to make a clean fit. The next section, we're going to be installing the control box and wiring it. Now there are two control boxes for this installation, one for each door. There are two 3M double-sided tape pads that you're going to adhere to the back of the control panel, and then on this area of your door. Just a note there on the top, make sure that you feed the wires from your tweeter, your new tweeters, through the knockout in the door panel before connecting to the control box. This is very important because if you don't do this, you will have to undo all of your wiring and redo it the proper way. So make sure your new 4D tweeters will have 3 wires that come down from the bottom. Make sure you run those down through the opening for the tweeter in the door panel before connecting them. So we're going to take that wire that we just fished through the rubber grommet, and we're going to pass it behind the door woofer bracket, as you see here. The yellow wire is for ambient lighting, disregard that. We're going to take that black wire and connect it to the control box that we just mounted with the double-sided tape, just like so. These connections will only fit in one spot, so you can't mess this up. Now here's the tweeter. You can see the wiring that hangs down. This is very important. You want to make sure that you run those wires that I'm holding through the opening in the door panel for the tweeter. Now for this installation, I'm just going to show you where the connections go, but you want to make sure that those speaker wires, tweeter wires, are coming from and through that opening. So the red plug will go into the red opening on the control box, and then the last plug panel there on the panel is for ambient lighting if you have it. If you don't, you can leave it open. We're going to zip tie our wires to the existing wiring that's on the door already. Just helps us tidy up and alleviate any banging or rattling in the door when we're driving. Use as many zip ties as you need here. Now we did this installation at the same time as our ambient lighting, so that's why some of the wiring is being done at the same time. So that yellow wire that you see there is not going to be part of your installation here. So we're taking all the excess that we have and we're just tidying it up using as many zip ties as we need to. Just like so. And again, it's very important, I can't stress enough, make sure your tweeter wires are connecting through that opening. So now we're going to go ahead and reconnect our door woofer. You can reconnect that green plug and then just use those 4 arms that grab the woofer bracket, and then reinsert the 4 8mm screws, and you can tighten them down. So let's take a look. Here's our wiring. Now we're going to just trim back the zip ties. I cut them back as close as I can to the cinch. Just prevents any sharp edges from being near the wires as well. Make sure you get them all. Then we're going to close up the lower grommet. So there are 2 lips on this rubber grommet. The larger one is the one that is going to get fed back into the oval opening in the door. And then once that one seats, it will actually pull the grommet in place in the door. The upper one's a little more tricky because it has the plastic ring that the rubber grommet attaches to. If you've ever installed a power trunk before or worked on your trunk, this is the same type of fitting that you can find there. So the easiest way to reseat this and try to press it flush. If you're having a difficult time getting it to sit flush, then we recommend taking the plastic ring out and connecting the rubber grommet first. For the next part of the installation, we're going to be placing the tweeter and reassembling our door panel. So the door panel will sit along the window ledge and allow it to hang in place. While that's happening, you can actually slide it left and right to find the sweet spot where those pins that we showed earlier will align with their respective holes. Once the door panel is in the right spot, you'll actually feel the door panel kind of fall into place, and you'll know it's where it needs to be. Once you've got it in place, now we're going to press down on those clips and lock the door panel into the door with those pressure fitting clips. You can see the tweeter is connected through the opening as we stressed earlier, and we're just going to hang it in place for now. It's totally safe doing that. And we're also going to make sure that we have replaced the metal fittings from the OEM tweeter. Those little brass clips at the bottom of those pressure fitting clips. You want to transport those over to the new tweeter. So our door panel is now pressed in place. We can take our tweeter, our new 4D tweeter that we just installed, and you can go and stuff those wires down into the opening. And you want to make sure that when you're locking the tweeter in place that you catch the hook on the back. There's a plastic strip, and we're going to reinstall the 3 Torx 30 bolts that we removed earlier. Does not matter what order you do these in. The screws should go in relatively easily. You should have no resistance. If you do, you might want to check the alignment on your door panel. Make sure you didn't miss one of those clips. We're going to replace the plastic cap that we removed earlier, and also the plastic reflector. On the reflector there's the word up. Just make sure that the word up is facing up when you reinsert the reflector. At this time we're going to repeat steps 1 through 8 on the passenger side, starting from the rear vent and working your way all the way out to the passenger side door. If you need to rewatch any of the segments, you can do so now. Alright, so now it's time for my final thoughts and just some pros and cons with this kit. So as you can see, the fit and finish of this kit is beautiful. The chrome / brushed nickel finish really pops, makes the tweeter stand out, especially when they're presenting and retracting. They look really cool. The ambient lighting feature is a plus. It will light up. It just will light through sequentially RGB colors if you do not have an ambient lighting system installed. We do have the ambient lighting system installed in our car, so this actually can be tied into that through that control box that we installed in the door, and that will allow you to sync the lighting. As you can see, the dash is purple and the tweeters are purple, and if I cycle through colors, you can see it changes with that. So I thought that was a really cool feature that you're able to tie into an existing separate modification. The other thing I do like is the sound quality is pretty good. We did downgrade the speakers from the Alpines for the tweeters to these, so we're probably going to end up going back to the Alpines because we want to have the whole kit. I'm going to look into modifying the tweeter that's inside to see if I can put the Alpine in there and preserve this. I should be able to do it, but that might be another video for the future. Some of the things I don't like about the kit is I really thought when I installed them that they would present and retract whenever music was turned on and off, and that's not the case. So they only retract and present when the car powers on and off. So for instance, I will show you real quick. I'm going to shut the car down. You can see they retract back in. There's no noise when they retract. It's very quiet, very seamless. But I thought it would be more of pronounced action. It's kind of subtle, and if you don't look at it while you're getting in or out of the car, you totally miss it. So I'm going to turn the car back on now. And you can see they turn about almost a full turn, just about 3/4 of the way. And the lights come right on quickly. There is a F logo, very similar to the Mercedes Burmeister tweeter ensemble, whatever you call it. That's where this design was brought over from. So pretty cool in that aspect. Some of the cons, like I said, I thought it would do more than it does, but the aesthetics make up for that. The biggest con with this is the installation and the amount of effort that's needed to get these installed. I don't really know if it's worth it for most people. For me, I wanted it, so I didn't mind doing the legwork. But if you're somebody who doesn't really do modifications to your car, doesn't really like breaking down things, this installation can be a little difficult. It's probably between a 6 and a 7 out of 10 for the sheer fact that you have to run the cables from the rear console up into the door pillars and then into the door channels through those rubber grommets, which, as you can see in the video, is not the easiest thing in the world to do. And then installing all that wiring in the door. So if you like this video, please give us a like, share, comment, subscribe. And until the next time, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Peace out.